So, has anybody ever said to you, your paintings look like cartoons? And is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? So, we're going to find out today. Mandy Theis is with us. Mandy, no, it's Theis, isn't it? I always
Yes.
get it.
Oh, well, good catch, Eric.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
It's
old
okay.
habit. So, Mandy Theis is with us. Mandy, tell me what's good and what's bad about cartooning.
Oh, well, the main thing is that we're trying so hard as realistic painters to create beauty in our artworks and create this believability. We want to suspend people's disbelief that this isn't a canvas, that this is, another world that we're helping them enter into. And when you do a certain number of things, which we're going to talk about today, instead of getting that believability, you get cartoony feel. You're entering into cartoon land instead of a believable landscape or a believable environment that you're painting. So we're going to talk about what are some major mistakes that people make that make their paintings look cartoony and how to fix them.
All right. Well, that sounds like a plan. I like that. And so let's get right to it.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhoads. Now, here's your host, Eric Rhoads.
Welcome to Art School Live. I'm Eric, and we are back from the Plein Air Convention. Man, I slept all day yesterday, and I'll tell you all about the convention in a few minutes. My guest today is Mandy. Mandy's been on many, many times, Mandy Theis, and she's going to talk to you about cartoony, right? And not even cartoony. And what I think is really cool about this is that, there is a time and a place when cartoons were used in classical painting. As a matter of fact, when they did drawings, the underpainting drawings for like Rubens and people like that, they actually used to call them cartoons. Absolutely. And that's because of the outline. But that's really more about what? Well, that was about how when they used that kind of as an outline, they took that term cartoon and combined it. All right, Mandy, let's see if we can get you back in here. I'm having a hard time here.
I think I'm on the screen, so I think I'm in.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe the kind people in the chat will let us know. But welcome everybody to Art School Live. I'm so happy to be here. I missed you all last week. As Eric was running the Plein Air Convention, I was lucky enough to attend the Plein Air Convention. And I have to say, Eric, I am not the same person I was before I left. I am.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, maybe your audience will have to let me know. But I have been transformed. I have always dabbled in plein air painting. It was never my main thing. And I was so silly, Eric, because as a studio painter, I'm like, oh, it's color, value, shape, form, line, edges, it's the same thing just outside. But boy, is landscape painting just a completely different animal. And I felt like working with all your amazing instructors out there and learning so much that I had never seen the landscape before. I felt like I was seeing it for the very first time. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad it was helpful to you. We had 53% brand new people. It was amazing and pretty incredible watching everybody's eyes open up. And this is what I've been telling people for a long time. If you plein air paint and you get out there, you're going to see things differently. Light and color is going to be a lot different.
Absolutely. And I mean, frankly, plein air painters are completely lawless. They're like, oh, this tree over here, I'm just going to move it over here. Things I would never do in my studio. They're out there rearranging the landscape, like, oh, paint the clouds once and that's the way they are forever. So just remember it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Remember it. Plein air painters have this amazing visual memory that I didn't really understand until I had the privilege of painting next to the best of the best. And then if any of the instructors from PACE are here today, please give a shout out. I just want to make sure to thank all of you for coming, especially Scott. If Scott's here, I love special shout out to him. He helped me a lot with my paintings. So
Scott Christensen,
the other Scott.
Well, there's so many Scotts. Okay. Well, it's really cool. I know. I'll
Scott Hamill. Just like
wow, what a brilliant painter he is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to this cartoony thing. I'm anxious to see that.
Yeah. So here's the thing about painting, whether you're painting outside, and I was so inspired by landscape. I picked a landscape painting to work from today. This is by John Frederick Kensett. It's called 𝗬𝗏𝗁𝗁, and it was done in 1872. But I thought it was the perfect example to tackle something that will make your painting look cartoonish if you don't get it right. And so the main thing that we're going to focus on, and it may be new to you, it may be not be new to you, you may have heard it under another name, but what we're going to call it today is a color movement. All right. So one of
Color
the
movement. Okay, cool. By the way, Scott's watching. He says you rock.
Yes, Scott. See, I accidentally missed Scott's demo after you gave me this great critique, and I feel so terrible about it. So I actually wrote him this morning being like, hey, I hope you don't get this until it's too late so you can miss my demo, and then I'll feel better about myself. So
Well, the cool thing is that the people who signed up for next year, they get replays of all the stages that they missed. So that's
my goodness. Oh, so I can watch his demo is what you're saying. I didn't know there was a replay option.
Yeah. All right.
Excellent.
Okay. Well, Mandy, take it away.
All right. This day keeps getting better and better. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad to see you. And we're going to talk about color movements today. And I picked this piece because it has a lot of subtle color movement. So one thing that'll make your painting really cartoony is if you look at the sky and you make the mistake of saying, oh, it's one kind of blue. Right? But it's not one kind of blue. If you squint your eyes, maybe it can feel like it's all the same color, but it's not at all the same color. It's a different color up here than it is down here. And it's a different color over here than it is here. So for example, we have a greenish tint here that transitions into a slight purple. Even though the value and the chroma are the same, the hue is very subtly shifting from left to right. It's also slightly shifting from a colder blue to a warmer blue from top to bottom. So this is what we mean when we say color movements, is that there's an idea that if we just look at it, we're tempted to paint it all blue. That's going to be cartoony. But if we're really careful in our observations, we'll look for what's called the color movement. We'll figure out in what way the color is slightly transitioning from warm to cool, from a green to a purple, from light to dark, whatever that transition is. Because remember that every color has a value, how light or dark it is, a chroma, how intense the color is, and a hue, which is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. So in this case, our value is largely staying consistent. It's getting a tiny, tiny bit lighter down here, but overall it's pretty close in the same value range. The chroma is pretty consistent. These are all neutralized blues, purples, and greens. What is changing, what's creating the color movement is the change in hue. And that's what we're going to jump into today. Okay, so we are focused on color movements today. So I'm just going to briefly block in kind of what's going on here, but we're going to mostly focus on this color movement and this beautiful watercolor movement here. And if we have time, we'll throw this in, but because there's also color movement in the trees. These trees are dark in value, but the trees over here have more of a green undertone and they become more orangey as they go over here. So even though this is a grouping of many trees, it still has a color movement as well. And if I continue the color movement all the way across the hill, of course, overall, it becomes more of a yellowy green over here. These are subtle things. I'm going to take a moment as I'm painting to like really pull you guys in super close. But the first thing we need to do is just kind of block in what we're doing. I'm using a very, very basic palette, just a titanium white, a cad yellow. I added a neutralized yellow here, a cad red, ultramarine blue, and an ivory black. I'm just mixing a neutral color to use as a drawing. So I'm mixing a little bit of red, yellow, and blue that will make a neutral. That's a specific kind of neutral called a chromatic neutral. So if you take a chromatic yellow, chromatic red, and a chromatic blue, and you mix them until they're kind of a gray that's not a green gray or a blue gray or a yellow gray, we call that, it sounds really contradictory, but it's called a chromatic neutral because it's made from chromatic colors. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly, I'm working with a big brush. I'm just going to put the line, the division between the water and the sky. I'm going to just briefly throw in kind of this land mass here, and there's a little bit of a curve here as well, right? Now, whenever you're doing these small studies, this is the old master painting. I'm doing a small study of it. You want to have, what's the point in your mind, right? Like, what are you trying to learn from this? Today, our objective is, let's do color movements, right? And if that's my objective, I don't want to get sucked into all the teeny tiny drawing, right? I want to just maybe block in a little dark over here so it's not distracting, and get into the color movements that we're here to do. So, this is just a block in. This is a study. We're going to be focusing on this area and this area today. This is just to keep us from getting distracted. And I'm already tempted. Oh, but just put some more of that green in, Mandy, right? All right, so we're just going to put something in here. That's fine. We're just covering the canvas so that the white isn't skewing our perception here. Okay. All right, so we're going to start by working on the sky. So we need to evaluate our value, our chroma, and our hue of our base sky. And then we're going to talk about what the movement is and how to mix up piles on our palette that will help us get that movement accurate. Okay. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask as always in the chat. It's so good to meet so many of you, and a special shout out to the Dreamliners that are here today. I just learned that you exist. I just joined your Facebook group. So, people that show up to the Art School Live regularly have a little group that call themselves the Dreamliners. They're super cool. You should totally join them. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to mix up a slightly neutralized blue that's a medium value. All right, so I want it to lean blue, but it's neutralized. So I'm adding some of that chromatic neutral color that I made earlier into it. And I don't want it to be too purple. So I added a little bit of yellow, and now I'm going to add a little bit more blue because it went too green. Now I'm only using an ultramarine blue. Like, I may need to throw cerulean blue on my palette, but I find that the old master palettes tended to not have the super chromatic colors, and that they're slightly more neutralized. And so I'd like to keep a more classic palette when I'm working from an old master, because it's likely that these were closer to the colors that they had. For anybody who wants to take a short foray into pigment geekdom, there's basically 3 eras of pigments. You have your old master pigments, a lot of the earth tones or the lead paints. Then cadmiums were invented in the 1850s. And then today you have like the quinacridones and these like modern pigments that are largely driven by the car industry and the makeup industry that are super, super potent and super, super intense, but they're more intense than the colors that this artist would have had at this point in time. So that's why I tend to use a little bit more of an old school palette when painting old school things. Okay, I did not make nearly enough paint because we have a big area. If I try to paint this color movement with this much paint, like, I'm going to run out of paint, and then I'm going to start pulling from areas and pretend that it's enough when it's not enough. And then I'm going to be annoyed and have the wrong color, right? So be disciplined with your painting and mix up a good pile of whatever your base color is for your color movements. So I'm starting with some white and then making some more chromatic neutral with the red, yellow, and blue. And I just need a nice big pile. So my first attempt is purpley, the opposite of purple. On the color wheel is yellow, so I'm going to add a little bit more yellow in here. And overall, I want it to lean more blue, so I'm going to add some more blue in as well. But the point is, I need a big pile. Like, a little pile is just not going to serve me well if I'm trying to find a big color movement. Okay, so I have a much bigger pile here. And let's take a look at how we feel about this color on our canvas. Now, keep in mind, I'm painting on a white canvas. This isn't toned. And anytime you put a color on white, it's going to look crazy. For example, when I put this dark on here, it looks so much darker than what I see here. But that's largely a product of the fact that it's surrounded by white instead of this neutralized darker color. As soon as you start to get more of this color down, this will start looking more like the right color. Sometimes my students, when I'm teaching them, I run an online school called the 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗀 Arts. They'll put this down and they'll change this color again and again and again and be like, it doesn't look right. And I will tell them, of course it doesn't look right, because color is all relational, right? You have to have everything that's around it before you know for sure if this color is correct. So put your best guess down and then get your canvas covered, right? Because a white canvas will mess with your head like nothing else when it comes to color. Okay, so I have this color that I mixed. I'm just going to put a little bit down. This is feeling too green. I'm going to push it a little bit more on the blue side. And it might be a tad dark, so I'm going to just add a little bit more white as well. Now, I'm not mixing the whole pile anymore because this green color is actually where I want my color movement to go. It gets more greeny down here, just subtly, but I might as well keep some of that green around because I'm going to need it later. All right, so we really spend a fair amount of time with our colors trying to get the right color. You know, if you don't want your paintings to look cartoony, that's what we're all about today, you need the right color on your palette. And I feel like even this could be a little bit more on the blue side. So I'm going to take just a pure blue with white because this will be slightly more chromatic. And when I paint over this, it's going to make it more blue. It's going to lean it blue because it's picking up what's underneath it. Okay, so we have a slightly more blue color. I'm feeling pretty good about this.
Are you feeling good?
Yeah. How are you feeling? What are your thoughts? Are you like, I'm really going to mess up this demo?
I'm sleeping. I'm sorry. Just catching up on my lost sleep after a week.
That's it. We're going to let Eric take a little nap here, and we're just going to take over. Like, well, what is the phrase? When the teacher's away, the kids will play. When the cat's away, the mice will play. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just get this covered. So, you know, having some nice wet paint down is helpful for establishing a color movement. And of course, a color movement will keep our paintings from looking cartoony. So the key here is to get this covered. And you may notice that I have this little brush and I'm trying to cover a big area. That's silly. Don't do this to yourself. Like, use a brush that's proportionate to what you need to cover, because what's going to happen is I'm going to just pick away at this over 30 minutes instead of getting my paint down in 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to a bigger brush.
What do as I do?
You would never do that, would you, Eric?
No. Our guest today is Mandy Theis, and we would love it if you guys would leave a comment, tell us where you're coming from, and we'd know where you're watching from. It was great seeing a lot of you out at the convention. If you were at the convention, go in and say so, and talk about what your experience was like. We're going to show some pictures in a few minutes. Okay, now you're cranking. Now you're really getting into it.
Right? Just get the canvas covered. An uncovered canvas is your enemy, right? Like, just get it done. I'm using a brush that I realized I forgot to wash before I left for the Plein Air Convention, so it's a little sad today, but it's doing the job.
Yeah. I tend to forget to wash my brushes too.
I say that I forget, but the reality is that I hate washing brushes. And now I just keep a little pile of oil next to my studio and I stick them in there. But this one was sticking up, so it didn't quite get into my little oil.
You know, if you get really rich, you can just throw them away and pull out a new one.
Yeah, I'm sure Rosemary would love that, right? If I just had to replace my brushes all the time.
Yeah, she would like it. She would like it.
Yeah. So Eric had amazing vendors at the PACE conference, you know, brush makers, paint makers, true experts in, you know, materials. You could really talk to them and get a lot of insight and knowledge. Even like, you know, you think you go to the conference to watch people like Scott Hamill, which you definitely should, but also that you get to, you know, talk directly with the people manufacturing your materials and, you know, getting advice on what's good for you, what will work best for the way that you like to paint. I mean, the vendors were so generous with their knowledge and time.
Yes, they were.
Yeah. All right. So we're focused on color movement. I'm about to pollute my brush by going into the stark area. I'm not going to fight it too much. I'm just trying to get things covered here. We can always clean it up once we start the color movement.
If you guys love Mandy's teaching, give her a thumbs up.
Oh. There's only a thumbs up, right?
Yeah, we announced next year's PACE. Of course, if you're at this year's PACE, PACE is the Plein Air Convention and Expo. If you're at the convention, we give you a price that nobody else gets. So it's already more expensive, but it's still the cheapest it's ever going to be for most people. And next year, we're going to the Ozark Mountains. We're going to be based at the Castle in the Clouds near Branson. And we have 2 hotels. The first hotel is going to sell out very fast because we need more hotel rooms because it's getting bigger and bigger. But it's right in the middle of the country, so there's no excuse for anybody can drive.
I love that. I love that so much. And I can't encourage you enough. Like it's a life-changing experience to go to PACE. I'm so grateful that I got to go this year. Okay.
I heard it from a lot of people, actually.
I mean, it's incredible. And, shout out to Mr. Eric Rhoads over here, who tirelessly and works to put on these things that feel effortless when you're there, right? Everything just goes the way it's supposed to. But behind the scenes, that Eric and his team are working their butts off, right? So
I'm going to show some pictures right now, Mandy.
Yes, please do.
Okay, so there is the big sign outside of the hotel we were in, Plein Air Convention side. There's 𝗬𝗶𝘁𝗵 on stage, the great watercolor artist.
Yeah.
That's my son. We put prizes on him and we spun him around. Here I am with some of our flappers. This is painting out in Virginia City. The whole streets were lined with painters. We all dressed up in our cowgirl gear. That was kind of fun. There's some cowgirls from our team. And well, they're not all girls, I see there. We were painting in Lake Tahoe, which was pretty amazing, and Reno. Oh, I got that one again. Here is my selfie with our dancing girls and all the people in the background, which was fun. Here you can see the dancing girls came on. I know dancing girls seems a little strange for a plein air world, but we like to have fun. And after all,
in Reno,
those were the original MGM costumes, by the way. This is my team. This is the entire team that was there at PACE to pull it off. Harley Brown, man, what an incredible, we got him out of retirement to come and teach at the Plein Air Convention. He got a Lifetime Achievement Award. Here I am doing a selfie with everybody in the background. That is so, so cool. Here is Daniel Warrior, the actor from Yellowstone, and my son, Brady. And Daniel came to the convention the second time in a row, came on his own. This was our VIP dinner. We always have VIP dinner with the main stage faculty. This is me and Lori McNee with our dancing girls at our gangster party. And then this is me and Albert Handel with the gangsters, the girls. This is our VIP breakfast we did at the Auto Museum. VIPs get special things. So here we are. We had a special breakfast in the museum, which was all laid out. It was very cool. We had people painting all over. It was just absolutely incredible. As far as you can see, there are painters everywhere and lots of groups of people having lots of fun. These are some of our scholarship students this year. Okay, now I've done that interrupting, Mandy.
Well, it's fun to see. It was one thing to experience it while I was there, and it's another to see through all these photos and remember all those good memories. So I'm happy to see it. Okay, so we basically have a base color down. If we want to make a color movement, we need to be careful in our observations, right? So this blue is getting a little bit more yellowy as it goes down. And it's more greeny on this side towards more purpley on this side. So we need to go towards slightly warmer and a touch lighter as we go down. And we need to go from a green to a purple from left to right. Am I backwards in this? Oh, my left is your left. Okay. Sometimes the camera is backwards and then I'm talking left to right. So, and I'm all off.
It works.
Yeah. People are asking me about my favorite brushes. I am in a moment where I'm changing the way that I paint, and I'll grab any brush right now and see how I feel about it. I used to only work with softer bristle synthetic brushes. That's what I have in my hand right now. But for the first time, I started getting into bristle brushes while I was at Pace. And because we had so many wonderful vendors there, I was able to acquire some and try some out. There was even a free brush in my goodie bag at Pace, which got me started on bristle brushes. And so now I'm finding an affinity for a type of brush that I used to hate. So,
well, bristle brushes are really great for plein air painting because they carry a lot of paint, and you're not necessarily being studio careful when you're
right.
going outdoors. You're trying to get a study.
Right. Well, that's the thing that I didn't understand was the difference between plein air painting and studio painting. I was so arrogant, Eric. I was like, oh, I'm just going to use my skills that I have inside and take them outside. What's so hard about that?
I thought you knew everything, Mandy.
Oh, you're so sweet. Your confidence in me is appreciated, if undeserved. So basically, I liked this, and I added a little bit of that warmer neutral, and now I'm blending it out. Now, this is a really subtle difference, but this is the difference between having a cartoon painting and having some sophisticated color work on your canvas. All right. So we did this transition from warm to the blue, and now we have a slightly green to a slightly purple. So if I want to tilt my blue green, I'm already doing that by adding this yellow, and I'm just going to make it extra yellowy over here, just to tilt it a little bit more green. I might need a little blue in here too to make it really read green. There we go. Okay, so we have a greenier feel here. And it's transitioning to just a regular warm here. But by the time it gets over here, it's starting to turn purple. So if I add just a touch of red into my blue, it's going to lean it slightly purple. But just a little bit. If you go too much, you'll get exaggerated cartoony vibes, right? You only want a little bit of transition.
Carl S. is asking, does it help to hold your palette angled to the same angle as the artwork while mixing so lighting won't affect color and value on the palette?
Okay, that's a great question. Sometimes I'll actually clip my palette to the same plane as my board. Lately, I've been really into holding my palette. And then when I was plein air painting, of course, the 𝗬𝗫𝗄 box is flat. So I'm kind of in transition. But really, my light source is coming from above me. And it's raking across my painting a little bit. You can see the shadow being cast here. And so I tend to hold my palette about here, because it's raking my palette at approximately the same angle as it's raking my subject here. So that's a really good question. Be mindful of your lighting. This is a new studio for me. I moved in, I've really only been painting the studio for a couple months. Now this is a master copy, so my lighting is a little bit more forgiving, right? A bright day is going to affect both of these the same as a dark day, so that's useful.
So one thing you learn when you're plein air painting is if you paint in direct sunlight, your palette's in direct sunlight and your palette's in direct sunlight, you get it inside and it's dark.
Yes.
And the same thing happens if you overlight your studio. You get too much light and then your paintings come out dark. You get too little light, they come out too light.
So Eric, where were you a week ago? Because guess what I did when I was plein air painting at the Pace conference?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
full light. But if you know it's going to be really dark when you take it in, then you can compensate. If you're aware of what the light's doing. But it is a challenge. Plein air painting requires so much visual memory, so much control as much as you can over your environment. Like, I'm fussing about, it's a light day or a dark day in a very controlled environment with no winds and no clouds, essentially, changing every 2 minutes. But plein air painters, they are lawless. They are a lawless group. They're like, I'm just going to remember this thing and paint it perfectly. And then I'm going to remember what it was like 5 hours later when I'm working on something else. It's really—
Well, when you get to the point where you've done it 50 or 100 times, now all of a sudden it'll change how you paint on the inside.
Yes. I've already noticed some changes, changes on the inside, in my art heart. Yes. And it is a little bit darker over here. So now I'm darkening slightly. It's purple and darker, but, I've just really loved this moment of trying to merge, 15 years of studio painting with this new skill of plein air painting.
Yeah. Changes everything. So many people resist it for so long, and they think, why would I ever bother to do that?
Right.
And you were one of them. That's why we had to get you out there.
It's true. I was resistant. I was like, no, that's not my jam. But you know what is my jam is visual beauty. And just, that first day we went out painting, Eric, I was driving home. And you guys had a bus, but I get really bus sick. So I rented a car because I didn't want to throw up on your friends. And I was driving home, and I just, everywhere I looked, I was seeing paintings. I had to stop and just take a breath, right? Look how beautiful that is. It's absolutely gorgeous. And it was like that, the drive all the way all the way home. I was literally in tears, feeling like I was seeing outside for the very first time. I can't emphasize enough what a magical experience that whole conference.
Welcome to my addiction.
Just what I needed, another addiction. I don't think there's a detox for this. What am I doing right now? I would have never picked this painting for a study a week ago, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You've ruined me, Eric.
Thank you.
In all the good ways. Okay, it is a little bit darker and a little bit more blue up here than I have it. So we have this warm to blue, but it's getting just a little bit darker up here.
What are you going to do next? Because right before we take a break, I always like to say what we're going to do next.
Oh, we're going to do this water next because there's a beautiful, beautiful color movement here. So that's what we're going to tackle next.
Okay. All right. Take Mandy off for a second. I'll be right back. Well, guys, let's see if I can show up here. Okay, I'm doing my own tech today because my producer's off. Okay, well, welcome to Art School Live. I'm Eric Rhoads. We're here every weekday at 12 noon. Our guest today is Mandy Theis, and we are having a good time today. I want to tell you a couple of things. First off, we announced last week at the Plein Air Convention, well, we had about 1,200 people, had 80 faculty. We had amazing experiences, so thank you to everybody who was there. It was great meeting a lot of you. I had met a lot of you online, but never had met in person. So it was really cool. Saw a lot of people, a lot of you guys that show up here every day showed up there, met for the first time in person. That was fun. The Switzerland thing, right? We've been talking about a Switzerland thing, and the Switzerland thing is officially closed now. We still have 2 seats left for that, but we've officially closed it. So what's that mean? If you desperately want to come to Switzerland with us, then you still can, but you need to let us know today. An email to me, Eric at Plein Air Magazine, or just go to paintswitzerland.com/ASL. We might be able to get you in, but we would need to know today. Okay, next up, we have Fall Color Week is coming up. Fall Color Week will be in Door County, Wisconsin, which is in the Midwest, kind of the middle of the country. And it is absolutely stunningly beautiful. It's on Lake Michigan, and it's going to be a fabulous, fabulous place to go. So you want to make sure you do that. Coming up in just about a week from Friday or Saturday, I have Paint Adirondacks. We might be able to get you into that. I'm not sure. I haven't checked my numbers in the last week, but when I last checked, there were a couple of slots open. And that's a week of painting, just a retreat. We just paint together. We put you up, we feed you, we hang out together, we sit up at night, we do portraits, we have a lot of fun. If you're on the East Coast, Paint Adirondacks, it's only about a 5 or 6 hour drive from New York City, for instance, and way up to the upper corner of the country. We also have coming up, I don't think I have a slide for it, but we have coming up Gouache Live, which we announced at the convention, and that's going to be coming up in August. We also have, and this is coming up just in about the last day of Paint Adirondacks, we have Digital Painting Live. We have the legends of Hollywood who do a lot of the artwork for the movies. And some of these people have done some of the movies, probably many of the movies that you have known and come to love. They're going to teach you how they paint. Dylan Cole, for instance, did Avatar. He did Lord of the Rings. He's considered the best of the best. He's one of the finest digital artists in the world. What's interesting is these guys are all, I say guys, these people are all traditional painters. They paint in oil, they do plein air painting. Why do they do that? It's because they can learn better from those things. Nathan Fowkes is incredible. He's a legend. He's authored many books. Mike Hernandez, who did Shrek and has done many other movies, Tiffany Mang, who's done many of the Marvel things and others, and Jennifer Wang. So we've got an incredible lineup. And if you don't do digital painting, that's okay. You're going to learn about painting, and you're going to learn about how these masters work, but you're also going to learn about digital painting. And again, all of them are traditional painters as well. So it's pretty cool. We're going to be doing a lot, and that's a one-day event. And I use my iPad for digital painting. I did it on the airplane coming back from the event, and I work out compositions in there. They're going to show you how to do that kind of thing. Anyway, it's really powerful, and we hope that you'll attend. And that is called Digital Painting Live. Just go to digitalpaintinglive.com. Okay, now back to Mandy. Here we go, Mandy.
All right, as promised, we're going to start working on our color movement on the bottom here. So, you know, here we have these nice blues, but they're really almost a pure green by the time that they get over here. It's a neutralized green, but it's quite a bit of color movement here. So we want to make sure that, you know, as we're getting the movement, it's the change, the subtle change that really makes a difference in the painting. I'm going to bring you guys just a little bit closer. I want to make sure you guys have the best view possible here. And, you know, we do have a slight light effect going on from, it looks like the clouds are clearing up here. We're going to get some direct sunlight. But because we're going compare to compare, we should be mostly okay. I do feel like we need a little bit more purple in here before we carry on. So I'm going to throw that in quickly. But again, this is also our first pass. These are built in layers. So you put your first guess down, you get your canvas covered, right? Because we don't really know if this is the right color until this goes in. And just to prove a point, let's mix this bluey green. It's neutralized. It's quite a bit darker. I'm going to start just by mixing green. I'm going to tilt it more blue. I'm going to neutralize it a tiny bit with red, just a little bit, because remember, red, yellow, and blue make our neutralized, our chromatic neutral. I think we need a little more yellow.
Yellow.
And yellow. Red, yellow, and blue will give you a chromatic neutral. So I'm going to lay down this color here, and I'm asking myself, value, chroma, hue. So the value feels like maybe it could go a touch darker. I'm just going to add a little bit of black to bring down the value here. The chroma, it's a neutralized green, bluey green, right? And I have a neutralized bluey green here. Maybe a tiny bit more yellow. Now I'm going to have a fight here because I keep adding yellow and black, right? The yellow because I want it to be slightly more greeny, but then the black because I want the value. But what happens is that my yellow is lightening my paint, and then I'm adding black to darken my paint, and black is more neutral than blue. So, you know, I need to make sure that I'm keeping the chroma and the value at the same time. So sometimes that means I need to add blue and not black. All right, there we go. Now that was just a subtle change, but it's just a touch more chromatic here. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to just paint in the area, and then we'll work on the color movement. Anytime you have two colors meeting, they are creating an edge, okay? And so we want to be mindful of that edge. Is it a hard edge? Is it a soft edge? I'm just going to lay it in for now, and we'll come back to that. But you know, keep in mind that your edges really matter. And anytime you have two colors meeting, you have an edge. So edges aren't just for disappearing at the end. There's something that should be considered every time you have two colors meeting. All right. And I feel like I need to go even more chromatic. So I'm going to mix just a pure blue and pure yellow over here because it's going to get neutralized by what's underneath it. All right. That's too yellow. I need some more blue. I just wanted a little more chroma in here, right? These colors, you know, people tend to think in black and white, like neutral or chromatic, but you can have a chromatic dark that's slightly neutralized, right? Neutralization is on a scale, just like value is on a scale. Okay, now it's shifting more yellowy green over here. So I'm just going to put some pure yellow in here because it's going to pick up the neutral underneath. And it looks like it needs to go lighter. So I'm going to mix some of this lighter color in here. Now, this is too neutralized. On the page, it's reading more green here, and this is being a little bit more neutralized. So I'm going to make a green. I'm going to use this brighter yellow here. All right, that's really aggressive. Do you see how I went from too neutral to way too chromatic here? So, you know, it's some give or take. Let's neutralize it. And we're just trying to get these beautiful color shifts. Now, there's a color shift from left to right, but there's also a color shift front to back. It's slightly darker and even more blue back here than it is up at the front. So we want to account for that. So I'm going to add some blue and black together to get a neutralized dark blue back here. But, you know, the movement of color is what's important for making your paintings not feel like cartoons. So, you know, look around you, even at home, wherever you are right now, look at a wall, look at your floor, see if you can detect what the color movement is doing. You know, if you're looking at a floor, the part closest to light source is going to look different than the part that's furthest away from the light source. It's going to shift value, chroma, and hue, most likely, right? So can you find it? Can you identify that? If you play this game regularly, you'll get really good at color movements. There's this neutral area, and then it's getting more blue over here. So I'm just going to pull some pure blue in. This is going to mix with that neutral underneath. All right, so we have this neutralized blue to a slightly more chromatic blue to a yellowy, neutrally colored into our green here. This is the color movement that we're looking for. It looks like I could lighten this just a little bit, you know, as it approaches the shore. So I'm just going to add a little bit of white into that and lighten our color movement going this direction. And again, once we get our canvas covered, then we can start making better evaluations. For example, it now looks like I need a little bit more yellow down here. This looked super yellow to me when it was compared to the white canvas. But now that we have the right color here, it looks like this could really go down, or not go down, go more yellow. Maybe yellow to some people is going down. I'm not sure.
Whatever.
Yeah. We'll just throw some yellow in here.
I'll just leave that one alone.
Thank you, Eric. You're being generous today. Okay, so we're getting a little bit more yellow mixed in here. You know, just, you know, what a difference that makes, right? To you know, get more of that color movement. I feel like I could even do one more layer of that yellow. I do have a lot of paint on my canvas, so it's mixing in quite a bit with what is under. Okay.
That's like a tornado sky, a green sky.
Well, that's the funny thing is if we think of it as sky, we think that it's blue. But if we think of it as a color movement, then it frees us from these like convictions or, you know, things that are tricking our head, right? The same is true with skin tone. If, you know, I paint a lot of portraits. If you think that your skin is skin color, it's really hard for you to identify, oh, it's more of a red neutral here, going to a yellow neutral, you know, over here. So.
Yeah, when I first started painting portraits, I went to the store and I said, "Do you have any flesh color paint?" They actually did. They actually did.
Yeah. My very first tube of paint was flesh colored, and I got
people like me. They always had it.
I did it too, Eric. You're not alone there. I mean, because, you know, who's teaching this? I'm an art teacher. I'm a licensed art teacher. I've been, you know, I went to school to teach people how to draw and paint, right, in the public school system. And yet I didn't learn these skills until I went to an atelier, right? So if you don't know something, it's not because you're stupid. It's because you haven't had access to that information yet. That's all.
That's right. That's right.
So anybody who's like, oh, I can't paint plein air, go to the convention. You'll learn because you'll be around people that know what they're doing.
I think this is probably maybe the only, but certainly it's the biggest art convention in the world, and the other would be the Portrait Society, which is a fabulous event.
Yes, I love seeing what comes out of the Portrait Society events as well. I'm just grateful for anybody willing to give us these spaces, to paint and learn from the experts and the best of the best. It really is special that we have these. We nearly lost them, during COVID. And I'm so grateful to everybody doing the massive amount of work it takes to put on a conference.
Oh man. And everybody on my team is just exhausted, as you can imagine.
I hope they're all taking naps right now.
Well, some of them haven't been able to get back. There's big storms, and
oh no,
we're still stuck. I got stuck an extra day out.
Oh wow.
That's why I slept all day yesterday.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you got a nap. I was flying in and out of Newark, which was its own nightmare. They changed
Yeah, it's always a nightmare.
Yeah, they changed my flight so many times. Like even the day I was leaving for the airport, I'm like, can I trust that this is actually my flight? All right. I'm trying to paint against the glare for clarity on your screens here. But do you see just the subtle difference that it made? Like I put my first guess down, it was close, but it wasn't until I had this color in that I could really, clarify this movement. It was a lot more chromatic than I thought it was on my first attempt, right? And I bet the same is going to be true when I lay down this beach. So I'm just going to throw down a color here because this isn't quite reading right to me. But if I keep fussing with this color right next to this white canvas, like I'm just shooting in the dark. If I at least put my best color guess down here, then I can get a little bit closer to the truth.
All right. All right.
So that's too dark. And that's too neutral. A lot of people know how to neutralize paint, but make sure you know how to chromatize your paint too, right? This is a little bit on the neutral side here. So I need like a really clean brush and just some pure paint to mix in there. Otherwise, it's going to keep staying neutral. So I'm going to wipe off my brush really well. Get just some white and some of my yellow here. And I'm just going to throw that in. Do you see what a difference that made? I needed to chromatize it.
Chromatize.
Yeah. So a lot of people can make things muddy, but do you know how to make them unmuddy? You have to really exaggerate the chroma. And now I have way too much paint on here. I'm just going to take it off because it's too much. And then I'm going to relay down my chroma note. That chroma and the white. There we go. All right. So it does have a little bit of a pink hue to it. And of course, this has its own color movement too, but we're running out of time and I want to just focus on the water. So let's make sure it's light enough and is approximately the shape that we need. And it needs to be a little pink, a little more pink.
Put some flesh tone in there.
Oh, your snark is on point today, my friend. All right. Okay, so we have a close-ish idea. It really needs to be a little more pink. I want to just ignore that it needs to be more pink, but if I'm trying to get this color, this color needs to be right. If this color is off, I'm going to compare my new color of my water to the bad color of the shore. So I'm just going to take a minute here and do it the right way. It's always hard when you're demoing, right? Because like I have in my head what I want to show you, but also we have limited time. All right, we're going to throw down some of this. That needs more yellow. All right, I'm getting in the weeds now. I'm just throwing something down over here to cover the canvas and meet these colors. It's a little bit of a mess over here, but that's for another day. We're not dealing with that today. We are dealing with this. So we want to deal a little bit with the shape and a little bit with the value. And so it's clear that now that I've laid this down that this is a little bit too dark. So I'm going to lighten our watercolor a little bit here. All right. So I'm going to take my watercolor and just lighten it slightly. It's a little bit on the blue side. I need a touch more yellow in here. Now, what's underneath it?
The watercolor, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially when you get into these like soft edges, you know. We have two colors meeting, and this is a really soft edge because the water's kind of lapping at the edge of the sea here. It gets sharper as it goes back, actually, because we're getting less of the nuance there. People often yeah, this is definitely oil paint. I pretty much only paint in oil. For me, the pigment between acrylic and oil is similar. If you're having a cad red oil paint versus a cad red acrylic paint, the pigment itself is the same. What's different is the binder, right? So oil paint is bound together with vegetable oil, like linseed oil, walnut oil, something like that. Whereas acrylic paint is bound with plastics. And I am very personally concerned about the plastics in our environment. And I'm trying so hard to, it's an impossible task, but I definitely don't want to paint with plastic. So no offense to the acrylic painters present, like has convenience. It has, a lot of positive attributes, but I just hate that it's plastic. I need more blue. All right. I know that we're almost out of time. Oh, see how I'm going to ruin it in the very last.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm rushing. So rule number 1, no rush. Don't rush. All right. So we're just going to restate some of the shape here. And I hope that overall that you can see these color movements. They're small, they're subtle. I'm going to bring the computer up really close so that you guys can really see here what we've managed to do today. I'm just going to take you as close as I can. Let's see. Up through here.
Yes. Okay.
All right, so we're really looking for those subtle movements in our color today.
Awesome. Well, Mandy, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you doing this. And I understand you're going to be doing some fill-in for me when I head to China.
Yes, indeed. So it won't be too long before you see my face again, whether that's a positive or a negative for the individuals out there. I'll leave that to you. But
it's a positive.
Well, I love being here. Thank you so much for having me today, Eric.
Thank you, Mandy. Mandy Theis, ladies and gentlemen. Give her a thumbs up and round of applause. Thanks, God. Thanks. Bye. Well, there we go. It's been a great lesson. It's been very helpful. I want to remind you guys that Digital Painting Live is coming up in June, or the day before Father's Day. And whether you do digital or not, you're going to love it because you'll learn how to make some things that will help you with traditional painting. And those of you who are digital painters, you're going to love it as well. So we got the world's leading experts on that. People who've done some of the greatest movies in the world, and you don't want to miss it. Also, we have Paint the Adirondacks coming up a week from Saturday. If you still want to try to get in there, go to paintadirondacks.com. And of course, we still have some room at Fall Color Week in Door County, Wisconsin. So get there, fallcolorweek.com. And of course, gouache, you're into gouache. We've got gouachelive.com coming up. And as I mentioned, if you want to go to Switzerland with me in the fall, we cut it off, but we do have those 2 last seats left. But today's the absolute final day. So if you want to get those, email me, eric@pleinairmagazine.com. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. And make sure to subscribe to this program. Just go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and look up Art School Live. It really helps us when you do that. It helps us. It helps you because you get notified that we're going live. But it helps us when you actually go to YouTube. We have a lot of people who watch on all these different platforms. Go to YouTube and you subscribe. It helps us too. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And we will see you tomorrow. Thanks to all the people who came to PACE. We had a really terrific time. I'm honored that you would spend your time with us and be there. We just had more fun than should be legally allowed. I couldn't stop laughing. Everybody was laughing. It was really a terrific time. Okay, guys, thanks. And thanks again to Mandy Theis. Bye-bye.